And you can't tell me that that is not a good looking chicken sandwich for being part of a budget series. Hello everybody and welcome back to Dollar Tree Dinners. My name is Rebecca and this is episode 5 of a series where I'm attempting to stretch $100 to buy my groceries for an entire month. Before we get into what I bought and the meals that I made in this episode, I do want to reflect on something that I have noticed as a trend every single time I have done one of these series, and this time is no exception. So at the beginning, I am always apprehensive. About halfway through, I am a lot less apprehensive and a lot more confident because it almost feels like the food is growing. What's actually happening is that all of the ingredients that I bought, we're kind of using a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but it's all like stacking up in these containers, and I feel like I have so many ingredients to work with. Once we hit about 75% of the way through, which is where I currently am, I have now used up a lot of those surpluses. So as I'm standing here today, which to me is day 20, I am looking at peanut butter, rice, oats, green beans, peaches, and flour. And that's all I currently have in my pantry. Of course, I have some things in my fridge and my freezer, but I have used up a lot of those little odds and ends. So we go from having this big surplus of ingredients to having almost no ingredients, and it feels like it happens almost overnight. Because oftentimes when I show how much food I have left, it seems like a lot, but it's mostly because I haven't used anything up entirely yet. Now I've gotten to the point where I've used up a lot of things entirely, and I am dwindling down on the ingredients I have to work with. This episode I feel like is a lot of fun because I made the best meal that I have made so far this series, and I also made the worst meal that I have made so far this series. But let's go ahead and jump into episode 5, which is going to cover days 15 through 19. Good morning. Today is the 15th day of How Far Can $100 Go? I still have $25 left. Before we go bargain hunting, I want to do a full itemized inventory of everything I currently have. Let's start with the pantry. I still have about 2 cups of rice, and I do mean a full itemized inventory. I do still have 4 hamburger buns. I did switch over to only having 1 barbecue sandwich instead of 2. So I had 2 on the first day and I had 1 each the following days because I increased the amount of pork that was on each sandwich, but I also increased the amount of pork and beans that I had to go along with them. So I have 4 hamburger buns. I did get this little bag of potatoes for $1 just to kind of tide me over in case potatoes went on sale this week. I have checked, they did not, sadly, but there are still 4 small potatoes in here. I do still have 1 onion. I have 1 can of green beans, half a box of penne pasta. I have some flour left in this. Whether there's enough in here to potentially make another batch of tortillas, I'm not entirely sure. I probably have about 2 cups. I'm going to assume I have about 2 cups of flour in this bag. It might be closer to 1.5 cups. I do still have 2 packets of maple brown sugar oatmeal, and there's still probably 2.5 cups of oats in this bag. Of course, I have my oil, salt, pepper, and my garlic and herb seasoning. And I do still have both of the cans of peaches. I haven't touched those yet. The fridge is pretty depleted at this point because I've already gone through like the pork and the pork and beans and all that stuff. I do still have 3 breakfast burritos. So there's 1 in this container and 2 in this container. That will be my breakfast today. Let's see, so I used 6 eggs to make the breakfast burritos. That leaves me with 3, 6, 12 eggs. I think I forgot to mention this in my last inventory, but I do still have a stick of butter, because I only used 1 stick of the 2 so far. I do still have 3 carrots, as well as condiments. I have barbecue sauce and poblano salsa. And now we get to do the fun part, which is the squirrel fund, aka the freezer. I have 4 peanut butter and jelly Uncrustables. I could have doubled up on these. I just want to mention that too. Like I could have put 2 sandwiches in each of my lunches, but I actually found that lunch was plenty filling and I actually looked forward to it each day. So I do wish I had some ranch, and at one point I did actually use some ranch from out of my fridge for the carrots because I couldn't really handle the dry carrots. But I also have some banana oatmeal, the oatmeal bake. That is the country fried steak, cabbage rolls, There's 3 in here. And a burrito bowl, which I am thinking about using that to make something else this week. Then I have the breakfast burrito filling. This is the sausage, onion, and potato. The roasted vegetable soup, I did mention this is about 2 servings. I did end up saving some of that pork loin. I took the rest of it and I took the rest of that pork loin and I cut it into thin slices, and then I set 1/3 of it in a container, and I used the rest of it for my sandwiches the last couple days. This is chicken Alfredo. Again, I'm not entirely sure how well some of this stuff is going to thaw and reheat, so I do want to mention that too. That's going to be something we kind of figure out on our own. A couple of muffins. I did go ahead and freeze the rest of that cheese, so I have 6 ounces of cheddar along with the scrap bag. The rest of that head of cabbage, I had a lot of suggestions to make cabbage soup, which I think is a great idea, especially considering I have the scrap bag. And then I have some bread scraps. So this whole wheat bread is basically the rest of from when I made the Uncrustables. I saved all the crust and the heels, and this is probably going to be used to make a French toast casserole or something to that degree. So that is my full itemized inventory of everything I have in my pantry, fridge, and freezer as of day 15, along with $25 and some change. Sometimes I need to do this just so I can see it all written out, because it helps me to kind of visualize what kinds of meals that I can make with what I have, because when it's all separated, like some of it's in the pantry, some of it's in the fridge, some of it's in the freezer, I can't really see the whole picture. But when it's all written down in one location, I can see the whole picture. And at least I can look at this and say, well, I have, like I said, I have stuff to basically make cabbage soup, but I might be missing a couple of ingredients to make cabbage soup. So I can look into what I might need to supplement that. I also know that I have the stuff to make, like I said, French toast casserole, but I don't have any milk right now. So that would be something I need to put on my list before I go to the store. And then the other thing is that I haven't even used those cans of peaches yet, and I only have 2 packets of maple brown sugar oatmeal left. So I can do my peanut butter oatmeal for a couple of days, but then I can potentially do some like peaches and cream, maybe some overnight oats with milk and something of that degree. So I think I have a solid and cheap plan for the next few days, but I'm definitely gonna have breakfast before I head to the grocery store, because you know what they say, never go to the store hungry. I had an errand to run in town, so I just stopped in at the nearby Food Lion, which is a different one than I usually shop at. I made a beeline for the meat to see if I could score any markdowns. I've been having pork the past few days, so I was really looking to switch it up a bit. I was eyeballing these steaks for $2.69. Imagine being able to budget in steak. But I did end up getting these thin sliced chicken breasts for $2.47. I wasn't sure what I was going to make with them yet though, so I brainstormed while I was shopping. I grabbed a can of fire roasted tomatoes for my cabbage soup. I opted for the kind with garlic, although it's questionable how much garlic is actually in these. Patience is a virtue, and celery was on sale this week, so I grabbed a bundle. Cucumbers were also on sale, but the few that they had looked kind of sad. I did ask the produce clerk if they had any more, and he restocked them, so I was able to get a nice hefty cucumber for just 50 cents. This store also had the option to buy ripe bananas, which my regular store does not offer that. These ones wrapped in white tape were the ripe ones, which were 35 cents a pound versus the regular price of 59 cents a pound. I didn't need bananas necessarily, but I really couldn't pass that up. I am planning to make a pasta salad, but grape or cherry tomatoes are a little out of budget. I'll stick with the cheaper Roma tomatoes for most things. I'm not picky about tomato types. Black olives, though, are expensive at Food Lion, so I'll grab those at Dollar Tree, and the same goes for any type of dressing for my pasta salad. I did get a can of white beans to add to my pasta salad because it's definitely the cheapest protein I can buy, and it sounded like a good idea. And whenever I need meal inspiration, I always hit the frozen aisle, and today I saw these chicken sandwich patties, and I knew exactly what I was going to make with these thin sliced chicken breasts. Lettuce was luckily on sale for 99 cents, but the store was unfortunately out of mayonnaise packets. I was going to grab just a few for my sandwiches, and mayonnaise is expensive, but I can get that at Dollar Tree as well, which of course was my next stop, just to get the olives. They did have a couple of different types of olives. I could have even gotten Kalamata olives, but I did just get a can of black olives. I got a bottle of this golden Italian dressing. I had hoped to get the Kraft Italian, but they were out of it, and I needed a side for my sandwiches, so I settled on good old-fashioned potato chips. So I was able to get all of this for under $9. Here's my receipt, and the total, focus, the total came out to $8.79. So that included a head of lettuce, a big bundle of bananas, cucumbers, a few tomatoes, a whole bunch of celery, can of tomatoes, can of beans, and of course a pack of thinly sliced chicken breast. I wasn't really keeping track of the price while I was shopping, so I didn't know how much it was going to come out to. And when, she rang up everything, put in my phone number, and when it came out to under $9, I was ecstatic. This is a great haul. And then, of course, I did have to supplement it with a couple of things from Dollar Tree. There's my receipt from Dollar Tree. So at Dollar Tree, I spent just under $4 for 3 ingredients. I currently have $12 and some change left, but very exciting haul. I'm glad I did that inventory before I left, because that helped me to kind of make sure that my thoughts were narrowed down. I did forget to get milk. I meant to get milk while I was out, but I forgot, but that's okay. I don't need it right away. I can always wait until my next trip to pick up milk. So we are making pasta salad for lunch today. I do like to peel the cucumber, but you don't necessarily have to. And one of the ways that I have been kind of making things stretch as far as money goes is that for the most part, I've only been having meat with dinner. The exception to that is the breakfast burritos that I prepped, which did have sausage in them. But every other meal, if you've noticed, pretty much every other meal up until this point has been meatless except for dinner. This pasta salad is no exception to that, because I am using white beans as the protein for this pasta salad too. Another thing is you can seed the cucumber if you want. This one, I think I am going to seed this one, just because I think it will give the pasta salad a better overall texture to not have a bunch of seeds in it. I do need to try this golden Italian dressing that I got from Dollar Tree before I add a bunch of it to my pasta salad, just to make sure it's good, because there are some things at Dollar Tree that can be hit or miss, and I will admit to that too. Dressings are one of those things that sometimes their dressings are just a little funky to me, so I am hoping that this one is a decent one. Also, I explained why I didn't get cherry tomatoes. They were more expensive than just getting Roma tomatoes. So if you have cherry tomatoes, that is great. You can just cut those in half. I'm just going to do some diced Roma tomato. Next, we have our olives. These are medium olives, so I'm not even going to bother slicing them. Just drain them, dump them in. So that's what we have so far: cucumber, tomato, olives, now white beans. And I guess it is time to try this golden Italian, and hopefully it tastes like Olive Garden dressing. I remember I used to be able to buy Olive Garden dressing at Dollar Tree. I was kind of hoping to be able to, but they didn't have any. So it smells good. Perfectly fine. It's a little sweet, but I actually think that's a really good dressing, especially for $1.25. I'm thinking maybe I just need to season this up a little bit, because the dressing is good, but it just feels like it's missing something. So I feel like I could just benefit from some salt and pepper. So I'm going to boil the rest of this penne pasta. Do I wish I had bought rotini? Maybe. Rotini would have worked great for pasta salad and the Alfredo pasta that I made, but penne also works great for those things. I just think rotini matches pasta salad a little bit better, but let's go ahead and boil that. 10 minutes or so, roundabouts. I cooked the pasta for the full 10 minutes. I drained it, and then I rinsed it really well in cold water to help stop the pasta from cooking. And again, I'm trying to integrate as many like lunch options that are kind of grab and go, things that you can bring with you to work if you need to. Pretty much everything since I made the grilled cheese, everything since then has been grab and go. I should have checked the pasta before I drained it. It's a little crunchy still, but it's not my best work. It's not my favorite, but it's a pretty decent lunch. And today I am going to break my only oil, salt, and pepper for one very specific purpose. And it's mostly because I could have bought mayonnaise while I was at Dollar Tree earlier, but I do want to try making it. I have tried in the past and didn't really have that great success with it, but I want to try again. And one thing is that I do not have a food processor, so I'm going to try to do it either with my hand mixer or with my blender. But I need a couple of ingredients that I did not budget in. The recipe that I want to use calls for mustard and vinegar or lemon juice. But again, I could have bought mayonnaise at Dollar Tree. And if it doesn't work out, I'll take $1.25 out of my budget. I am only doing this because I could not get packets of mayonnaise at my Food Lion today. Otherwise, I would have gone with that route. So again, this is just my experiment. This is my cost to bear, but I'm going to attempt to make mayonnaise. The recipe that I'm going to be following is this fail-proof homemade mayonnaise, and it gives you a couple of tips on how to make it. This is from Inspired Taste. It just came up when I Googled like simple mayonnaise. So they recommend using the whole egg instead of just the egg yolk, adding things like mustard and lemon juice to help keep the emulsion together. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Let me grab, I need 1 egg. Let me double check on that. Yeah, 1 large egg. The most important thing is that this egg needs to come up to room temperature. I forgot to take it out earlier, so I'm going to prep some other things in the meantime. Namely, I'm going to shred this head of lettuce, and the way that I like to do this is just by removing the core. I just bash it on my counter. And then usually I can just kind of stick my fingers in there and rip it right out. So got some shredded lettuce. Let's slice some of my Roma tomato. Now when it comes to this chicken, let me check how this is looking. So when they say thin sliced, I thought they meant like a whole breast that was thin sliced. They kind of are, but I think, yeah, I was debating on what. So it looks like it's 1 breast that's just been thinly sliced. Some of the pieces are bigger than others. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take one of these bigger pieces here and cut it. Trying to like think in terms of like how I want to do this. I think I'm gonna cut it in half. I'm actually going to go ahead and cut a few of these in half. I'll save the tail end for something else. So it looks like I'll get about 3 sandwiches out of this, and I'll save these little pieces for something else. Let's go ahead and cube them up. So I'm going to try to get 2 different meals out of this 1 pack of chicken. So there we go, cubed up meat, and that is going to go in the freezer for a bonus meal. Now back to the chicken at hand. I'm going to pound it out. At this point I have realized that I should have probably gone to Food Lion and gotten a 5-pound bag of flour as opposed to this 2-pound bag at Dollar Tree. The 2-pound bag was $1.25 at Dollar Tree. A 5-pound bag at Food Lion is $2.50. So I would have gotten an extra pound free, basically. For this, I would have gotten an extra pound for the same price of 2 bags of flour from Dollar Tree. So, with that being said, let's season up our flour mixture. I'm just going to go and use some of that garlic and herb, working with very limited seasonings. Some black pepper and some salt. I don't really measure anything and just kind of go in there with whatever. Now, the mistake that I made with the country fried steak when I made that was I did wet first, then dry. I'm gonna do the opposite this time. We're gonna go ahead and coat all of this chicken in flour, and I'm gonna let that rest for a minute while we prepare the wet, which is just gonna be egg and water because I don't have any milk. Letting it kind of sit with the flour coating is going to make it form like a glue, which is going to keep our breading from falling off of our chicken. So now for our wet, just like I mentioned, I don't have any milk right now, so I'm just going to be using 1 egg and a couple tablespoons of water. Here's a little trick that I've learned from making like DIY fast food at home. I'm going to take some of this egg wash, like a tablespoon or so, and I mix it in with the flour mixture. That's going to make the flour mixture into these kind of big crumbs, which is going to replicate like when you go to Chick-fil-A and stuff like that, how their chicken has like really thick bits of breading on it. This is going to be the same effect. So it gave our flour like a good bit of texture, so that now when we go to bread our chicken, all that texture is going to stick to the chicken too. Here's our chicken. It's been sitting, so the flour's had time to kind of soak in a little bit, kind of form that glue. And make sure there's no excess before we dunk it in our egg mixture and then into the flour mixture. I like to kind of shake it around a little bit. I try not to get my hands too dirty when I'm doing this, but some degree is inevitable. If I had been able to get mayonnaise at the grocery store, I was going to get about 4 packs, which, because I was anticipating getting about 4 sandwiches out of that pack of chicken. All right, let's see. Is my egg still quite cold? So my egg's not quite to temperature yet. I'm just gonna have one of my bananas while I wait because I did not expect to be working on dinner for this long. So I'm glad I got these bananas. They're so much cheaper this way. I just wish that my regular grocery store had that option, but they do not. So different managers manage the store a little bit differently, but I was able to get some really cheap bananas today. How much did they ring up? 80 cents. I paid 80 cents for 7 bananas. So that means that they were about 11 cents a piece. Making mayonnaise is a finicky and time-consuming process, and it's not something I can generally recommend unless you have tools like a food processor or an immersion blender that will make the process simpler and faster. That being said, I do not have those tools, so I am attempting to make it with what I already have. I know you can make it by hand with a whisk, but even that takes anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes of rigorous hand whisking. So this is my disclaimer that this part of the video is chaotic and I don't particularly like when things fail, but I also like to show that things don't always go as planned. I attempted a blender version of mayonnaise that I found online and it did not work. I ended up with soup. So the blender method is a fail, and the version that I saw was using the exact same blender that I have. However, I was able to get some degree of success following the Inspired Taste recipe, but using my electric hand mixer. So behind the scenes, I will attempt to find a simpler version to share with you all, but I'm going to be completely honest with you that unless you have a lot of free time on your hands and a desire to learn how to make mayonnaise, it's probably best to continue buying it or snagging free packets from the deli when needed. That took 15 minutes with an electric mixer. I would not recommend that for anybody. It says when all the oil has been added, scrape the bottom and sides of the bowl, process for an extra 10 seconds. Taste for seasoning, then add salt, lemon juice, and extra vinegar to taste. So I will say that this time appears to be successful. I do have what looks like mayonnaise, but it looks still a little thinner to me than some other homemade mayonnaise do. This one looks still a little runny. So now I can say that I have successfully made mayonnaise, but I will probably never make it again unless I get the right kind of equipment to do it. So now that that ordeal is done and I can say that I have done it, let's fry up our chicken cutlet. That doesn't even seem like it's gonna take 3 minutes aside. That was about 2 minutes. I'm just doing one at a time so I can use a lot less oil. I think I cooked that one a little too much. The oil got a little hot. That's okay. So I also went ahead and toasted up my bun. I have the burnt one with tonight's dinner. Just go on with a good spoonful of that. Chicken cutlet, that's actually quite large for our bun. Shredded lettuce, a couple of slices of tomato, and I'm genuinely glad that I got a side that I don't have to cook after taking the time to make homemade mayonnaise. I just dropped one. Just a potato chip, it'll be fine. So we've got a breaded chicken sandwich with some kettle cooked potato chips. Moment of truth, let's find out if this was worth the effort. I'm sure that the sandwich will be. I'm just not sure that the mayonnaise is. Oops, I'm dropping mayonnaise everywhere. I worked too hard for that to lose any. I do have to say, it's a really good chicken sandwich. The mayonnaise is probably better than what I would have gotten at Dollar Tree. And if I had gotten packets of mayonnaise at Food Lion, they probably would have been Duke's mayonnaise. So, was it worth the work? I mean, the sandwich is delicious. I don't think that the sandwich is any better just because I made the mayonnaise, but I do think the sandwich is really good, and I made the mayonnaise. I don't think that those two correlate with each other. Maybe they do. I think it's a pretty spectacular dinner, considering we're like halfway through. Good morning and welcome to day 16 of 30. I have come to the conclusion this morning that I am set on breakfast for the entire rest of the month. Between the breakfast burritos I'm finishing up, again, I still have 2 left. I have enough to make 6 more because I have enough to make 6 more with the potatoes, sausage, and onions that I have frozen. 6 eggs. I just need to make another batch of flour tortillas. I'm not sure if I have enough flour to make another batch of flour tortillas. I might have to buy another bag. Not sure on that. But I also have oatmeal, I have bananas, I have peanut butter. I still have 2 oatmeal bars frozen. So I am set. I only need breakfast for the next, today's day 16. I only need breakfast for the next like 14 days. I think I am gonna end up freezing these bananas that I got because they're pretty ripe bananas and I don't want them to go bad like the other batch kind of did. And I can use these in things like in my oatmeal and stuff in the morning, but they will do better if I freeze them, I think. Oh, we need to talk about that pasta salad because I do think that this is the worst thing that I have made this entire series, and it's the first thing that I'm really struggling to enjoy or find joy in, and I don't know why. I cannot put my finger on it. It just feels like the flavors just don't go together. It feels like the individual components are fine. I just can't make them work together as a unit, even though it technically should work. Like there's nothing in it that shouldn't go together. So today and tomorrow are going to look identical because I'm just gonna be finishing off the last 2 of my breakfast burritos in the morning. I'm going to struggle my way through this pasta salad. I don't even know whether it's worth trying to save it, reconstruct it. It's fine, it's just not great. And then of course I have my chicken cutlets. So I have 2 breaded chicken sandwiches. I can reheat these on the skillet in some oil or I can reheat them in the air fryer, but hands down the best thing I've made so far, which does make up for the pasta salad in my mind. These are great, and you know, I'm sad that I only have 2 left. Tomorrow's gonna look exactly like today. It's gonna be all the same stuff. I don't mind eating the same thing 3 days in a row. After 3 days, I'm like, okay, we need to change it up a little bit. So tomorrow is gonna look exactly like today. So today's day 16, tomorrow's day 17. Let's jump ahead to day 18. All right, good morning. It is day 18. I'm having trouble keeping track of the days, I will admit that. It's just, this is the longest that I have ever done this for, and I think it's probably difficult for you guys to keep up with as well. I definitely want to switch back to doing the twice a week uploads because I think it's easier to keep track of where we're at as far as days go. So this video is probably going to cover days 15 through 18-ish. But as you guys know, I have bananas. I stuck them in the freezer. So they are semi-frozen, but as you can see, they chop up really nicely. And we're going to switch back to having oatmeal for the next couple of days because I'm kind of back in the mindset of trying not to spend money. I want to try to make things go as far as possible, and I do have, you know, I think $12 or $13 left. It would be cool just to see how far we can make that go. So starting off my morning with some oatmeal with a banana. These bananas are ripe, so they should be nice and sweet. And that definitely adds a lot of volume to the oatmeal, makes it more filling. So as usual, I did my 1 packet of oatmeal and my 1/3 of a cup of plain oats. Again, 1 chopped banana and a good heaping like tablespoon of peanut butter. But that is breakfast day 18. The bananas are still frozen on the inside, and so it's kind of like, I don't know, it's an interesting texture and it's like a pop of cold. I actually like that a lot That might be my favorite way to eat oatmeal, is with frozen bananas in it. I think that one of the things that I might have to do after this entire month is over is do a full 30-day recap video. For those of you who are following along video by video, that one might be one that you skip, but I think it would be helpful for somebody who is coming in at the end of it to be able to watch the full 30-day recap without having to watch the individual videos leading up to it, unless they of course want to. Just keep in mind that after this month is over, there will probably be one final video where I just kind of voice over, do an entire 30-day recap. For lunch today, I'm going to be making this vegetable soup. This is from my Depression Era Recipes cookbook, and I have all of the ingredients that I need to make it. It calls for a soup bone, which I already went ahead and made the stock using my scrap bags. I made 8 total cups of stock with the stuff in the scrap bag. This is definitely the darkest color stock I've ever made, but I think it's because of all of the vegetable scraps, because there was only 6 chicken bones, but a lot of carrots, onions. And then finally, I was able to budget in celery this week, so that completed the trifecta. So I cut off the tops and the bottoms of the entire bunch of celery, and that went in the crock pot as well. I topped it off with water, and then I set it to high, and I let it cook on high for about 3 to 4 hours, and then I turned it to low, and I let it simmer on low for 24 hours or so. And then I strained it, and then this is my stock. It looks like beef stock, but it's not. I assume that the dark color is just from the amount of onion skins and vegetable peels that went into it. The next thing that this recipe calls for is potatoes. I only have 4 left in this bag, but that should be plenty. Calls for a half a head of cabbage, so I did go ahead and thaw out the rest of my head of cabbage that I had in the freezer from the day I made the cabbage rolls. I have 1 onion left from the bag that I bought on the first day. Of course, I now have celery, and I do keep this in water to keep it fresher longer, because otherwise celery has a tendency to wilt. I'm going to be adding carrots to it because I have 3 carrots left, and they're starting to look, they look fine, but I'll probably at least use one of the, I'll probably at least use a couple of the smaller ones or something, but I'm going to throw some carrots in there because I have some. It also calls for rice, which I already have, and because I was planning to make a soup, I did already buy a can of diced tomatoes. This is the fire roasted diced tomatoes with garlic. It calls for 3 tomatoes. I'm gonna swap it for the canned tomatoes. The recipe book is just my inspiration, but I'm just gonna make it my own way, starting with some oil in the bottom of my soup pot. But this is my carrots, onions, and celery chopped. I'm going to season that with plenty of salt and pepper because I did not season my stock. Okay, that's softened up a little bit. It doesn't really matter because it's going to be simmered for so long anyways, but there is my diced potatoes. And I'm going to add in my fire roasted diced tomatoes and the rest of that chopped head of cabbage. This soup, with the exception of the diced tomatoes, I did not buy anything specifically to make. It was made using entirely just leftovers and scraps. I guess you can count the celery, but I didn't buy that specifically to make this soup. I bought the celery because I wanted celery. There is my broth. I'm gonna add 2 jars, so 4 cups. Maybe 3 jars, because I need to also have some room for the rice. And I like my soups to be more hearty, not quite brothy, so looks like I'll have 1 extra jar left over. I'm gonna let the soup simmer for about an hour, and I'll probably add the rice to it about 20 minutes before it's done. So I'm gonna let it simmer for 40 minutes and I'm gonna add the rice to it. All right. 40 minutes has passed. It's kind of slowed down a little bit. The simmer, I mean. And now I'm gonna go in with, I did a 1/3 cup of rice just because that's the measuring cup that I had out. It doesn't really matter how much rice, but now we're gonna let that simmer for another 20 minutes to cook the rice. All right, it's been 1 hour on the soup. 20 minutes for the rice. Should be fully cooked, and this is what we are looking like. It's nice and hearty. It's not too brothy in my opinion, and that rice is gonna soak it up. I can always add more broth whenever I go to reheat it if I need to. All right, So we got a nice big bowl of homemade vegetable soup. And let's see how much more we get out of this. Each of these containers holds about 3 servings of soup. 2 to 3, I would say. They're 32-ounce containers. So if you were to even assume that these are 2 servings each, that means that I got 5 servings out of that one batch of soup. And again, that was entirely scraps. I only spent 90 some odd cents on a can of tomatoes. I'm a big fan of cheap food in general, and I don't know, I've always had this, like, my goals have always been to eat as cheaply as possible. Having recipes like this in my back pocket are a superb way to really stretch a grocery budget. If I had some bread, I could make my grilled cheese sandwiches again and then cut back the soup portion, but instead I'm just gonna do a full bowl of soup and just have a really, really veggie packed lunch. I didn't add any of my garlic and herb seasoning to this. I really wanted to keep it simple. I definitely could have. I'm trying not to add it to everything because I do want things to kind of have their own flavors and not all just taste like garlic and herb. It's a very strong seasoning mix, so I don't have to add very much to things to really give it a flavor punch. It's good with this soup, but I think I prefer it without it. So I have a single hamburger bun left from the 3 chicken sandwiches and then the the pork loin sandwiches, barbecue. So I had the barbecue sandwiches, I had the chicken sandwiches, now I have a single hamburger bun left. So I think tonight we're just gonna make an egg salad sandwich for dinner. I'm gonna boil 2 eggs, I have some homemade mayonnaise. I'll probably just have like a little salad to go with it because I have all of this shredded iceberg lettuce and I don't really have anything else to use it with, so probably just throw some dressing on it and call that dinner. There's something that's so interesting about making an egg salad sandwich after you have made mayonnaise and you know what's in mayonnaise, like that it's just eggs and oil, that it feels kind of like eggception in a way. And again, I'm not the expert on making mayonnaise. This is not the best mayonnaise that's ever existed, but it is what I currently have. So now I know what you're thinking, like, why am I just eating lettuce with the dressing on it? I don't know. I don't mind eating lettuce with just dressing on it. I've done it before. Sometimes you have a head of lettuce and you don't really have any intended uses for it. So this is one of those situations where if you have any ideas for what I can do with half a head of iceberg lettuce, I am happy to hear them. But that is dinner. So we have an egg salad sandwich and some salad. I'm going to use that term very loosely. Maybe this classifies as a lazy meal. I didn't really have any other ideas on how I could use up this hamburger bun. This was definitely a use it up kind of thing. I had one lonesome hamburger bun. I didn't want to go to the store and get anything. I don't know. Probably one of the least exciting meals that I've made throughout this entire series, but it's mostly just a way that I can stretch going to the grocery store, but I am going to have to go back to the store tomorrow and maybe pick up a couple things to get me through the next few days. I'm pretty much set on breakfast. I have vegetable soup for lunches now. I really just need some dinner options, maybe like a few odds and ends, but this is where I'm going to leave you guys off for today. I hope you guys are enjoying everything so far. I do think that those chicken sandwiches were the best thing I've made so far, and I do think that that pasta salad is the worst thing that I have made so far, but it was fine. We work with what we've got. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and I will see you again soon.